Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology and the Salesology Prospecting Method. And I am also known as the queen of cold calling. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Doug Sandler, who is an entrepreneur and a podcast industry leader. His book, Nice Guys Finish First, is the #1 ranked Amazon bestseller. He is the podcast host of the Nice Guys on Business podcast, and he has interviewed Gary Vee, Ariana Huffington, John C. Maxwell, dozens of celebrities, and soon he will be interviewing me. Doug is a nationally recognized speaker, writer. He is the founder of Turnkey Podcast Productions, which provides podcast production, editing, and launch services. And in the spirit of full disclosure, Turnkey does all the production and editing for this podcast. And Doug's Nice Guys podcast has over 1,300 episodes, and it has been downloaded 5 million times in more than 175 countries. So that's pretty darn cool, and I am looking forward to getting there myself, Doug. So welcome.
Yeah. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks. And that introduction that you made for me was perfectly executed and very well written by my mom. So thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, your mom and me, we're tight.
Understood.
So, yes. So let's begin at the beginning.
Sure. Tell me.
You tell me. How did you become the nice guy? How did you get into podcasting? What's the backstory?
Interesting backstory. So I spent the little known fact about me, I spent 30 years as a bar mitzvah MC. So I did about 2,100 bar mitzvah events in my career over a 30-year span. And one of the things that I had, so let me just take a moment just to breathe about that, because that was one of those things. It's like, whoa, spent a lot of time doing that. I knew at some point the writing was on the wall. The future bookings were dipping a little bit back in 2013 at this point. Wow, that's a long time ago, 10 years ago. 2013, my future bookings were dipping a little bit. And I thought, what would be a good exit strategy? What is my next step in life? And I thought about it and I thought, hey, I could take a lot of the same philosophies that I had used to create a successful entertainment business. I owned the entertainment company that represented me. I owned a portion of that company. We were doing 800 to 900 events a year. You could take those same success principles and apply them pretty much in any business out there in the world and become successful at that next step. So I thought, okay, well, I'll write a book called Nice Guys Finish First. I wrote the book, did very well with the book. And then I was looking for a way to actually promote the book even more. And I thought podcasting is a kind of a cool thing. Let's give it a shot. Talked to my friend Strickland, who at the time was not my partner, but just a friend of mine for 20 plus years. And I said, Strick, I want to start a podcast. Would you be interested in doing that? He said, sure. Well, what's a podcast? So we thought, two ignorant souls searching the sea together. This will be a great thing for us to do. And that was the beginning of our Nice Guys on Business podcast. It helped promote my book called Nice Guys Finish First. And that was, over 8 years ago, 1,400 episodes of our show now, 5.5 million downloads later. And it's been a crazy journey and a wonderful journey at that, Wendy. And you have been a part of my journey too. So thank you for being a client, but thank you for doing what you do and sharing your wisdom with your sales world.
Well, thank you, Doug. And so now I'm really curious, though, what are the success principles that you built your first business on and that you use to build your second business?
All right. So if you're listening to this in Wendy's Salesology community, and if you're at all want to become successful at anything that you do these three things. Number one, be a nice guy. I mean, it's pretty on point with the brand, right? Nice guys finish first. Be a nice guy. tell the truth, return your correspondence. Those three things. Now, you may be listening to this and saying, duh, of course I need to be nice. Of course I need to tell the truth and be honest. And of course I need to return my phone calls or my correspondence. The overall theme to those three simple pillars is, number one, those three simple pillars, a lot of people screw them up royally. So we want to teach people not to screw those three pillars up royally. But really what it comes down to is be a nice guy equals compassion. Telling the truth equals honesty. Returning all correspondence and communication equals integrity. So if I were to say to anyone in your community, be compassionate, be truthful, and have integrity, who's going to fail at those three things if they just do them consistently over time?
I love that. I may steal it from you.
You are welcome to. I don't own those three things.
Yeah, no, those are good three things. So, but since you are an expert on podcasting, let's talk about podcasting.
Sure.
Because I know I heard your story that you and Strickland got together. Kind of what the hell? Let's do a podcast. I've got a barn. Let's put on a show.
Right. Okay. There you go.
Yeah. So why podcasting? And what's the difference between being a guest on a podcast and having your own podcast? I mean, can't you just go be a guest, like you're a guest on my podcast? I'll be a guest on yours down the line.
Yeah.
Can't you just do that? Why should you start a podcast?
Well, I think about it this way. And can you be successful at guesting on podcasts? Absolutely. If you're able to build a relationship with an audience in 30 or 45 minutes and compel and have a compelling enough message for that anonymous person who doesn't know you, but knows you now through the host of that podcast that you're guesting, if you can have a compelling enough message to share it with that audience and over a 30-minute period of time, get them to take action, then I would say you probably could be successful at just being a guest. The reality of it is, though, most people, it takes a little bit more than 30 minutes of a relationship before they make a commitment to anything, even something free. So the reason to become a host as opposed to just a guest oftentimes is because there's a longer lead time and there's a learning curve also. You know, your guest, your audience will come to your show. If you're the host, they may be coming to your show today because maybe the idea of having Doug Sandler on the show might be cool. Maybe they want to hear somebody else's message and perspective. That being said, they're going to fall in love with you, Wendy, as the host because you've brought them these amazing guests over a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, period of time. And how great would it be to be able to have those people queue up every week? I mean, you've been consistently putting out a message. You have 53 episodes that you have recorded, 47 of which or 48 of which are on the street right now. Those 48, you've built a relationship with an audience, even an anonymous audience. At some point, they will take action.
Okay. So, well, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway, because perhaps some of our listeners do not. Isn't it an awful lot of work?
Podcasting?
Yeah.
Well, relative to what? You know, if somebody were to say to me, hey, do you want to make cold calls or do you want to prospect or do you want to use it? You don't want to do marketing or do you want to post on social media? I would say, excuse my expression, but shit, that is a lot of work to do all of that stuff. If I want to do it, all I need to do is open up a microphone. So for me, if there's an opportunity every time I open up this microphone to make $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, depending on what my level of service that I offer, I'd much rather do that than write a blog or a social media post or go prospecting or do any of the business development things that have to be done in the real world. Podcasting for me is just, it's my world. Is it easy for everybody? No. That's why we exist. We produce, edit, and distribute shows. So, you know, stay in your zone of genius, do what you do best, create your content, and let somebody else do the hard work, which is actually produce, edit, and distribute your show.
And I'll just piggyback on that because that's exactly what I've done.
Right.
Because I answered the question. Yeah, I didn't want to do any of that production work, but luckily I met Doug. And so I don't have to. So who is podcasting right for? Like, why should, you know, say a business owner, maybe with a brick and mortar business, or maybe a salesperson, like who should consider starting a podcast?
Anybody that it wants an endless row and cycle or line of prospective customers, anybody that wants to queue up once a week and record an episode and share a message with an anonymous audience, think about podcasting. And I'm not privy to a lot of numbers that other people other than my clients have for downloads, but imagine a typical show gets anywhere between 50 and 200 downloads. Now that may not seem like a lot in the Joe Rogan world of getting millions of downloads, but imagine having 50 to 200 people every week say, you know what? I want to hear Wendy's show and I want to hear what her content is. And I'm going to pack into her conference room at her office and sit there and listen to her for 30 minutes. We have a captive audience in podcasting. So for me, it makes complete sense. So who does it work for? It works for anyone that has a message that's tied to their business and wants a creative way to share their message with a community of people that they're trying to convert into customers. It can also work for the passion project or the passionpreneur that has a business that's out there. It's trying to figure out how to navigate to make money with their business. If you're in podcasting and you're not making money from your show, I'm not talking about advertising and sponsors. I'm talking about if you're not getting business directly from your show, whether it's the audience or the guests, if you're not making money from them, then you still have a lot to learn about podcasting. Not that somebody that doesn't make money from their show is not doing it right, but you're only 50% there. Or you're only 80% there if you kind of understand where the business comes from, but you're not converting customers. So for us, it really is an opportunity. Our show probably did $400,000 in business last year. And I'm so open with that number because I'm compelled to want to share with my clients and the people that are prospective clients, the fact that I don't have 10 million listeners like Joe Rogan. I don't need 10 million listeners like Joe Rogan. We might have a couple thousand people listen to our show every episode. It's not related to your audience size at all. Podcasting is just an amazing opportunity for people to connect and build relationships and make money and monetize.
So I was reading on your LinkedIn profile that you said that podcasts were about converting relationships into business so that the podcaster can spend less time prospecting. So for a sales professional, what I'm hearing you say is that there is actually a direct connection between having a podcast and getting customers or getting clients or making money.
100%. And I'll make it really clear so that those people that are in sales and have their own sales businesses or their own businesses where selling is a part of what they do, think about it this way. Imagine instead of having to prospect a cold customer for something that you are selling. Imagine, and I call that whether we're going to have a pleasant disagreement with this or not, I don't know, but I'm going to say it anyway. When you become a prospect of mine and I am a salesperson, we're engaging in something called the salesperson prospect dance. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm trying to put one of my products or services in your hands. You're going to answer that question with relative guard. You're going to give me an answer, but it's going to be the answer that's going to not totally commit to needing my product or service. Because if I ask you a question and you tell me the honest answer about what the problem is that you're experiencing, my job as a salesperson is going to be to then put you into my products or services after we build a relationship, of course. I just cut into the cold facts of it. You have a problem. I can solve the problem. I'm going to try to sell you. You're going to try to do everything you can not to buy unless you really discover that you have a need for what I have. But there's that dance that happens in the podcasting world. As an interviewer, you as an interviewee, you're going to, I always call this microphone truth serum. You're going to tell me the truth. When I say to you something like, so Wendy, as it relates to sales in the upcoming year, what are some of your initiatives? You're then, as a salesperson, you're going to tell me some of the things that you are working on in the upcoming year. As a salesperson, I'm listening with buying ears. If you are now someone that is saying to me something like, I'm saying to you, hey, Wendy, what are some of the things that keep you up at night? What are some of your struggles when it comes to selling? As an interviewer, you're going to give me the legitimate, honest answer. As a salesperson selling sales training to you as a potential sales training buyer, You're not going to say to me, the stuff that keeps me up at night is I can't organize my team. I can't get them on the same page as me. I can't get them to understand what quota is. All of the stuff that people that are about to buy sales training will admit to, but only under duress. So I say to people, I have an endless line of prospective clients that are waiting to want to have a conversation with me rather than a salesperson approaching a prospect and having a salesperson prospect dance. And I hope that makes sense. And I hope I didn't offend anybody out there.
Well, I doubt you offended anyone, but I do think that we have a different orientation about this. So I'll leave it at that. But I think the important thing that we're talking about here is that there is this correlation between the podcast, producing and hosting a podcast, and generating the revenue, gaining the customers or the clients that you're looking
100%.
to get. Yeah.
100%. There is a direct line between you and your customers when you're using the podcast as your tool. Now, look, that doesn't mean to say that it's always that way. It could be that you could start a podcast because you just want to create a message and send it out to the world because you have a passion project. I have a show called Ford Mustang, the Early Years podcast, because I'm a classic car owner and I love my 65 Ford Mustang. I don't sell anything on the show, but I do love talking about my Mustang. I don't have a product connected to my show. The thing I tell everybody that becomes a new customer of mine that wants to monetize their show is I say, look, we've got to get to know your mom. And they'd say, well, what does that mean? Well, mom stands for, you got to know who your market is. You have to have a specific offer that you're making, and you have to understand what your message is. If you know your mom, you're already 98% of the way there. We're just now a time bomb waiting to explode into sales. If you don't know those things, you're going to have a hard time selling someone that you don't have an offer, or if you don't know who your market is. And if you don't have a message or a brand, how in the world are you ever going to sell anything that way?
That is true. And I like mom. I like mom a lot.
Me too.
Yeah. So we're going to pause right now for a word from our sponsor, the Salesology Vault. But when we come back, Doug, I want to talk a little bit about some of the mistakes people make when they're trying to get a podcast together, because I see so many podcasts out there that somebody does like 10, 20 episodes and then they stop. So what are some of the mistakes? What are some of the do's and the don'ts? If somebody wants to get started, how do they do that? So after the word from our sponsor, I will hold your feet to the fire with those questions. And now, a word from our sponsor, the Salesology Vault. Just about every guest that I have interviewed on this podcast, the Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders podcast, each and every one of them has had a free gift for our listeners. As a matter of fact, our guest today, Doug Sandler, he also has a gift for our listeners. So what we've done is we've taken all of those gifts and we have put them all in one place just for you. We call it the Salesology Vault. It is packed full of free gifts from sales leaders, sales experts, marketing gurus, revenue generation experts, and we add another gift every single week. We release a podcast every Monday. We release a podcast. We add a gift. So you can log in as often as you'd like. You can download as many gifts as you'd like. It's all free. So go to bit.ly/gift vault, or the link to the Salesology Vault is in the show notes. Go to the notes, click on the link, download your gifts, and you will be glad that you did. And we are back with Doug Sandler of Turnkey Podcast Productions, and we are talking all things podcasting. So let's begin with some of the mistakes that people make. All these people that start a podcast, they do, the 10, the 20 episodes, and then they don't ever do another one. What are the mistakes? Like, how does somebody get started? What should they not be doing, and what should they be doing instead?
Let's start with what you should not be doing. Most people have a gift that was given to them by God or whoever, the universe, source energy, whatever it is that you discover is your creator. And that gift comes really easy to them. I mean, super easy to them. So much so that they may not even put a value on it because it does come so easy to them. And they may think, well, if it comes easy to me, it probably comes easy to everybody else. The thing that comes most challenging to them, or the thing that's the most challenging to someone else, may be things like technology or systems or operations or relationship building or selling or all of the things. What I always tell everybody is get out of the stuff that you are not good at and stick with the stuff that you are good at. So if your zone of genius is sharing your message with the world, however that is, through podcasting, through blogging, through social media, whatever it is that is your gift to the world, only spend your time doing that stuff. Delegate, hire, bring in somebody else to do all of the other stuff. And people may say, well, I can't afford to bring in a VA or an assistant. I'm not going to be able to afford to be able to do that. Let me tell you, the moment that you decide to delegate and give up those things that are not in your zone of genius is the moment that you have decided that this is a worthy and worthwhile opportunity for you to take a deeper dive in. That's when the universe will reward you by getting you clients, by getting you opportunity, all of the things that will help you benefit and profit from your business. They will appear when you start to give away all of those things that you're no good at. When I spent all of my time in spreadsheets and long emails and correspondence and social media, and spent a little bit of time focusing on building relationships and selling, which are really the things that I love to do the most. When I spent time doing those other things, money came slow. When I gave up all of those things, money came very fast. I was spending less time and making more money because I actually spent time in my zone of genius. So to summarize all of that in a sentence, stop doing the stuff that you are not gifted to do, that is outside of your zone of genius, and spend more time doing the things that you love to do and that are in your zone of genius, and you will greatly benefit from those.
And I'll piggyback on what you just said, because what I see a lot are people that there's something they're not good at doing that somehow needs to get done, and they think they have to do it, but they don't. And then whatever that thing is, it just stops them from moving forward. Speaking from personal experience, if I had to do the production on this podcast, we would not have a podcast.
Understood.
It would not have happened. And so that's why I turned to turnkey. But so I want to double down on what you just said. I think it's brilliant.
Well, people get 10 or 15 episodes in and they don't see either the results that they were expecting to see. And I keep thinking, you're still wearing your podcasting diapers. How are you ever going? I mean, it took us literally 100+ episodes before we saw our first dollar from our podcast. But since we've turned the dollar mill on, the ATM machine is cranking now. And the only reason it took us 100 episodes is because we really didn't have a handle on who our mom was. We didn't know our market exactly. We didn't have a specific offer, and we weren't really great at messaging because we didn't really know what we were offering to our audience. Once we got rid of the things that we were bad, my partner and I made a conscious decision to hire the people when we were paying people before we were paying ourselves in our business. We're like, what is going on? We've got to figure this out. We weren't making any money. We were spinning our wheels. We were spending we were making money a little bit, but we weren't making, it wasn't really going anywhere. And we said, Strick, you're going to work on systems and process, and I'm going to work on relationships and selling. We reduced our work hours probably by 90%, both of us, without exaggeration. And we probably upped our income 90% because we gave away the things that we didn't want to do. So that's why people in our audience have got to understand this is not an opportunity for you to just, this will be an easy thing. It's not going to be easy, but what in life that is worthwhile is not, it comes easy. Just spend your time doing the stuff that you're good at, hire out the rest, and you will make money at this game called podcasting, or for anything, for everything for that matter.
The very first person that I hired when I started my business about 25 years ago was a bookkeeper because right. I was doing the books. And my dancer joke, my first career was I was a ballet dancer. I danced in a ballet company. And my dancer joke is I count up to 8 and then I start over. And and that is not far from the truth. And I was doing the books and I hated it. So I didn't actually do it. I just threw receipts in a bag and crossed my fingers. And the first thing I did when I started making money was I found somebody else to do it because I knew it was something that needed to be done and I wasn't going to do it. And if I didn't have somebody doing it, it was going to be a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if someone wants to start a podcast and they've heard your message about doing the things they're good at, but where do they start? I mean, how do you choose a topic? How do you find guests? How do you know, you need a mic? How do you know what to buy? There are all these elements. Do we just Google it all?
Well, certainly you can. You'll come up with the 80,000 responses from Google about how to launch a podcast, and I'm sure that 79,999 of them are probably not perfect because it was created for somebody that probably built their own podcast. The worst person to plan your wedding is a bride that's gone through one wedding. It's because they built the wedding all through their own lens, and they're not really looking at the overall picture. For podcasting, it's probably not very different. You go to someone that has some experience in doing it, whether it's somebody like me or somebody that has launched their own, but maybe be able to give you some guidance for certain aspects of it. But it really comes down to this. We talk to people about, why would you want to start a podcast? Are you in it for one of really three reasons? And they're all byproducts of each other, but there is a lead reason. Do you want to make money? Do you want to build a community? Or are you trying to grow influence? What are the reasons why you're actually getting started in the podcasting space? And once we have a clear understanding of why you really want to do this, again, they're all byproducts. By building a community, the community is going to demand something from you. So you are going to make money. And by building a community, you're also going to create influence. And by making money, you've probably done that because you have built a community and you've gotten people to trust you as the influencer in that space. So they are all byproducts of each other, but there are specific strategies that are used very early on when you are building this template for your show that are beneficial for you to understand why one of those three reasons, which one of those reasons is the reasons why you get started podcasting. So I would say we start with a strategy call to come up with a reason why you'd start a podcast. And then we help you dive into a little bit more closely. Okay, let's talk about your mom. Do you understand who your market is? Do you understand do you currently have an offer that is in place that we need to tweak if you start a podcast? Because it's not your offer right now as it stands may not be the same offer that you make in the podcasting space, because if you have a $20,000 service, you are not going to sell, no matter how good you are, a $20,000 service to an anonymous audience member. But you could sell a free lead magnet, or you could sell, and believe me, you still have to sell free. You also could sell a $10 opt-in to something, or you could sell a $200 program. Or if you wanted to sell the $20,000 program, really what you're selling is the phone call, because without a meeting, you're never going to put anything in that prospect's or that audience's hands. So strategy would be first, goals would be second. You just have to, or goals first, strategy second. We have to understand why you're getting started. And then we just take it from there. We help you with all of the technology. We help you with all of the communication skills. We help you with guest acquisition. We help you with automation, all of the things that you need. So again, you can spend all of your time in that zone of genius. And again, if it's not me or somebody like me with my company, find somebody else. Don't do this on your own. If you're not a podcast expert, then don't launch a podcast without the help of a podcast pro. And that's why we got into business to begin with.
And I have to agree with that. When I decided to do the podcast, I hired a podcast coach. And just like the production, if I had not hired my coach, we would not have a podcast.
Understood.
So I know you have a gift for our listeners. So please tell us about your gift.
Well, one of the biggest challenges that businesses have when it comes to podcasting is, how do I connect my podcast to my business, and how can I actually make money from my show? And so what we've created, and you'll provide a link, I'm thinking you're going to put it in your show notes, but one of the things that we have is a 5 ways to make money podcasting gift. I think you're going to put it in your library of stuff. I heard the commercial.
We are putting the link in the notes from today's podcast and it will be featured prominently in the Salesology Vault.
Well, the vault, Wendy's got the combination to that vault, so I encourage you to opt into the vault, which will give you access to our information as well. So we always tell everybody, the best way to understand how you make money podcasting is, hey, look, you don't even have to meet with me. Just check out the 5 ways to make money podcasting, and you'll see if one of those is a way that would actually benefit you and your business.
Absolutely. And so we are going to post the link to Doug's gift. It will be in the show notes. So as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to the show notes, click on the link, and click on the link to access the Salesology Vault, because Doug's gift will be in there along with 50, 60 other gifts that you can download and come back every week and get some more. And where can, other than your five ways to monetize your podcast gift, where else can people find you, Doug?
Well, if they want to get a copy of the book, Nice Guys Finish First, just head over to Amazon and check that out. They can see, I own a company called Turnkey Podcast Productions, and certainly they're welcome to Google us and get access to our website. But I love getting information from podcasts. So if you wanted to listen to the Nice Guys on Business, you'll listen to 1,400 episodes of craziness and all sorts of fun when it comes to building your business. I like to put a fun spin on everything. We do 2 episodes a week. One of them is just me and my partner Strickland just kind of shooting the crap about business and life. And then I have a professional like yourself that sits in the guest seat once a week. And we chat about, positive ways to build your business. And it's called The Nice Guys on Business. So you can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay. Well, thank you, Doug Sandler. And so thank you all, our audience. Thank you all for listening to the Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders podcast. And if you have found value in listening to today's episode, then please think of one business owner or one entrepreneur or one sales professional that you think might also find value in listening to this podcast, and please do share the link with them. And till we meet again, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.